Hello, welcome. Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 15, Population and Development, we are going to start this lecture with the topic India, the population experience and developmental concerns. India was one of the first countries to recognize the population problem and adopt an official national program on family planning in 1952. Concern over the rise in population in India started well before independence in the 1930s. Between 1881 and 1931, India's population grew from 27.7 million to 279.0 million, and between 1931 and 1940 it grew from 279.0 million to 318.7 million. The rise was phenomenal, from 10% in first decade to 14% in the second. This growth was unprecedented, primarily because of the measures taken to the control epidemic and famine situation. The concern over the rise of population was more among the social reformers, intellectuals and the Congress party than in the British government. The British government was cautious in raising the issue as they had witnessed the reaction of people to birth control back in Britain, and also because they did not want to create conditions of unrest among the Indians over the issue. Most Congress workers under the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi were against birth control measures. The use of contraceptives was considered sinful. It was seen as a method to offset the procreative role of sex. But many leaders, scholars and trainees of the Indian civil service who had been to England and were acquainted with the Malthus's theory considered India as a likely casualty of the positive checks, wars, famines and epidemics due to overpopulation and poverty. The Neo-Malthusian League was established in Madras as early as in 1929. The League brought out a propaganda journal titled the Madras Birth Control Bulletin. It was in Mumbai that birth control was for the first time seen not as a means to control the population but as a method of liberating women from the frequent and difficult task of childbearing, preventing unwanted pregnancies and improving the health of women. Professor R.D. Karve in Mumbai made it his lifelong mission to campaign for the rights of women and educate people about birth control. He later became the member of the Family Planning Association of India, formed in 1949. In 1935, the All India Women's Conference also took up the issue of birth control in the annual meeting held in Thiruvananthapuram and adopted a resolution to uphold birth control with the view to improve the status of women in society. The Bengal famine, in which over 1.5 million people died, and the inquiry that followed brought to light the effect of a rising population on the economy and poverty. Similarly, the Bore Committee report of 1949 also related issues of public health, sanitation and prevention from communicable diseases with population control. But the reports formed the foundation for the family planning program after independence and its inclusion into India's 5-year development plans. The first 5-year plans stated its intention as follows: the reduction of birth rate of the extent necessary to stabilize the population at a level consistent with the requirements of the national economy. Clearly, the intention was not just to reduce population but also to stabilize the population growth rate at a level that can be sustained by the national economy. But the population control was pursued as an independent agenda, separate from the concerns of development and social change. No numerical targets or demographic goals were set in the first and the second plan, and people were expected to go to the clinics and seek family planning services, besides providing the regular methods of birth control such as diaphragm, condoms, vaginal foam tablets, and sterilization services were also provided. The third plan replaced the clinic-oriented approach with an extension education approach which aimed at taking the message of birth control to the people instead of waiting for them to approach the government clinics. The message to the people was to adopt the small family norms, which was not only a sensible choice in terms of giving their children a better future and improving the health of women, but also the need for building a healthy and prosperous country. The family planning program was officially made a part of public health departments, and peripheral health workers such as the luxury nurse midwives were appointed in primary health center to inform, motivate and encourage villagers to adopt family planning methods. By the fourth plan, targets of sterilization were set and camps were held to operate on people to meet targets. Although 61% of the target was achieved, population growth increased at the same rate, which perplexed policymakers and administrators. It was in fifth plan period that the national population policy was formulated. Concerned efforts were made to improve the organizational structures of the health department and increase its efficiency in achieving family planning goals. Government offices, villages and urban centers were targeted for sterilization. The emergency that followed soon after, as per the many analysts, brought out the uninhibited and obsessive side of this drive to bring down the population. The emergency created a fear among people about forced sterilization, and the newly elected Janta government changed its approach to pacify people's fear regarding birth control. It adopted the term family welfare instead of family planning to suggest the malleable character of the program. The concentration was now on education, educating people, and thereby motivating them to adopt family welfare measures. A number of recommendations of the 1976 policy was nonetheless adopted. For example, the age of marriage of boys and girls was raised to 21 and 18 respectively. The sixth plan set long and short-term targets which persisted through the seventh plan. The long-term goals focused on reducing the size of family, the birth, infant mortality and death rates, while the short-term goal was to encourage sterilization, use of intrauterine devices and other conventional contraceptives. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for listening.